So let's talk about Mozambique. On this day, August 31st, 2025, the air in Maputo feels different. There's a new face in the presidential palace, President Silva, who just won an election that has the continent leaning in. Another election? Another leader? What's the big deal? This one feels different. It's not just swapping the guy in the big chair. It's a potential shift in the whole neighborhood. Silva isn't just promising to fix roads. He's talking about building actual bridges, and metaphorical bridges to neighbors. It's like the new kid showing up to help clean up, and plan the next party with everyone. For too long, African countries have been like siblings in the same house who barely talk. They live in their own rooms with their own problems, and mostly interact when the parents, former colonial powers, or international institutions call family meetings. Silva's victory speech wasn't a normal victory lap, it was a call, an invitation across borders. He spoke of a shared destiny, a common struggle, and a collective strength. That message says Mozambique is ready to step out of its room and start a real conversation in Africa's living room, and people from Cape Town to Cairo are taking notice. Mozambique has incredible natural resources. Now, President Silva isn't starting this band on his own. He's joining a jam session that's already got some pretty interesting characters. Let's look north, to West Africa, where you have a leader like Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso. This is a young guy, a military man, who came to power with a message that resonated deeply with his people and beyond. His whole vibe is about sovereignty. He's basically saying, thank you for your help, world, but we need to be the ones driving our own car now. He's challenging old agreements, questioning foreign military presence, and pushing for his country to control its own resources, especially its gold. He's the guy at the family dinner who finally asks the awkward question everyone's been thinking. Traoré's style is direct, no nonsense. He wears his military fatigues as a symbol of a nation at work, a nation under construction. He speaks in simple, powerful terms about dignity and the right of a people to determine their own future. For many young Africans, he represents a break from the past, a leader who isn't afraid to stand up to powerful global interests. He's not just talking about political independence, he's talking about mental liberation, he's talking about economic liberation. He's the revolutionary spirit of the group, reminding everyone what they are fighting for, the right to be the masters of their own house. Okay, let's break down this big word you hear thrown around, Pan-Africanism. It sounds complicated, like something you'd need a university degree to understand, but it's actually super simple. Imagine your family is scattered across a huge neighborhood. Everyone lives in their own house, with their own rules, and their own problems. Pan-Africanism is the simple idea that maybe, just maybe, you'd all be better off if you started acting like a family again. It's the idea that the people in the house on the corner have more in common with the people in the house down the street than they do with the landlord who lives across town and sends them a bill every month. At its core, Pan-Africanism is about unity. It's the belief that people of African descent, on the continent and in the diaspora, share a common history, a common struggle, and a common destiny. It's about looking past the borders drawn on a map by Europeans in a conference room in Berlin a long time ago, borders that often split ethnic groups and lumped rivals together. It's about saying, my identity as an African is bigger than my identity as just a citizen of one country. It's about teamwork on a continental scale, because your cousin's success is also, in a way, your success. This isn't a new idea, it's been around for over a century. Talk is cheap, right? So how is this new spirit of Pan-Africanism actually playing out on the ground? Well, it's not just speeches and handshakes. We're seeing real, tangible examples of collaboration that are starting to change the game. For instance, look at the security situation in places like northern Mozambique, which has been battling an insurgency. Instead of relying solely on Western help, Mozambique invited forces from other African nations, including Rwanda, to help stabilize the region. This is huge. It's Africa looking to Africa for solutions to African problems. It's like instead of calling an expensive external security company, you call your tough cousins from next door to help you deal with a problem. This military cooperation is just one piece of the puzzle. The economic collaboration is where things get really exciting. Leaders like Kagame have been pushing hard for the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is basically a plan to create the world's largest free trade zone. The goal is to make it as easy for Burkina Faso to trade with Mozambique as it is for France to trade with Germany. This means slashing tariffs, streamlining customs, connecting markets of over 1 billion people. Imagine a young fashion designer in Ouagadougou being able to sell her beautiful Faso Danfani fabric directly to a boutique in Maputo online, with fast shipping and no crazy taxes. That's the future they're building. Then there's the sharing of knowledge and technology. Rwanda, with its focus on becoming a tech hub, isn't keeping its secrets to itself. It's actively partnering with other nations to help them develop their digital infrastructure. They're sharing expertise on everything from e-governance platforms that reduce corruption. No discussion about the future of Africa is complete without talking about its greatest resource, its young people. The continent is overwhelmingly young. The median age is around 19. That's not just a statistic, that's an energy source. This generation is the engine room of the entire project. They are more connected, more educated, more ambitious than any generation before them. They grew up with the internet in their hands, and they see themselves not just as citizens of their country, but as members of a global and continental community. They follow trends from Lagos to Nairobi on TikTok, and collaborate on projects with people they've only met online. Their dreams are big, and honestly, they are impatient for change. I met a young woman in Accra once, a software developer named Aisha. She told me, "I don't want to go to Europe or America to build the next big app. I want to build it here. My only frustration is that it's easier for me to get a visa to visit France than to get a work permit for Kenya." Now, let's be real. This journey towards a united Africa is not a smooth paved highway. It's more like a bumpy dirt road with a few potholes the size of a small car. It's a beautiful vision, but there are massive challenges. First, there's the issue of old habits. For decades, the economies of most African countries have been designed to serve external markets. They were set up to export raw materials, cocoa, oil, coltan, to Europe, China, and America, and then import finished goods. Rewiring this entire system to promote trade within Africa is a monumental task. It's like trying to turn a giant cargo ship around in a narrow canal. Then you have the problem of internal conflicts and instability. It's hard to talk about building a continental superhighway when some neighborhoods are still on fire. Political instability, coups, insurgencies can easily spill over and disrupt progress in another. These conflicts drain resources, create refugee crises. For centuries, Africa's story has been defined by what has been taken from it. First, its people were taken. Then, its resources, diamonds, gold, oil, rubber. The continent has been like a giant mine for the rest of the world, with its wealth being extracted and processed elsewhere, leaving very little behind for the people who live on top of the riches. The new vision of Pan-Africanism is fundamentally about flipping this script. It's about a shift from simply exporting raw minerals to cultivating and exporting the finished products of African mines. It's about reclaiming the entire value chain. This means building the factories to process our own cocoa into chocolate, the refineries to turn our crude oil into gasoline, and the smelters to transform our coltan into the components that power the world's smartphones. This is what leaders like Traoré are talking about when they demand control over their nation's gold. It's not about hoarding it in a vault, it's about ensuring that the wealth it generates is used to build schools. The story of Pan-Africanism doesn't stop at the continent's coastlines. It extends to every corner of the world where the African diaspora lives. Montage. Faces of people of African descent in the US, faces of people of African descent in Brazil, faces of people of African descent in the Caribbean, faces of people of African descent in the UK and Europe and beyond. The descendants of those who were forcibly scattered by the slave trade and those who have migrated more recently. For them, a rising, uniting Africa is not a distant political development, it's a deeply personal, emotional homecoming. It's a source of immense pride and a fulfillment of a centuries-old dream of return. This global family is watching with bated breath. Every step towards unity, every new trade agreement, every successful cross-border project sends ripples of hope across the oceans. When a leader like Kagame announces visa-free travel for all Africans. So here we are on August 31st, 2025. We stand at a fascinating and hopeful moment in history. We have a new visionary leader in Mozambique joining forces with bold figures like Traoré and Kagame. We have a simple yet powerful idea, Pan-Africanism, being reborn with practical modern energy. We have tangible examples of collaboration in security, trade, technology, and most importantly, we have a generation of young, brilliant, and impatient Africans ready to build a new continent from the ground up. This is not a fairy tale. This is real. The pieces are on the board. The challenges, as we've seen, are real and formidable. There are old economic systems to dismantle, conflicts to resolve,